Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm happy to have you back here. And if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please do well to hit the subscribe button and watch this video till the end. So on this video, I'm showing you tips on how I rewigged my client's hair. So I was unavailable for a while and she took her hair to a different salon to be wigged, and they basically did a, I wouldn't say a bad job, but the job wasn't as great as it would or it should be. So she sent it over to me to rewig and style. So let's get into it. I needed to do like a proper inspection of the wig to know where the errors are and also know how best to fix it. So I turned the back of the hair to see the tracks, the sewing tracks, and it wasn't really, the tracks weren't really aligning. So I don't know how this wig, I don't know how they made it, but the tracks weren't aligning at all. If you can see, I'm just going to zoom in a bit for you to see the space between two track lines sewn in the wig. This is a space, a very huge space. And then these discrepancies caused the cut to be inconsistent because they gave this wig a blunt cut. I think it's a 16 inches ginger color bone straight. So they gave it a blunt cut, and these spaces made the blunt cut kind of poor. So the best resolution or the best solution is to totally take out this wig and then sew it again newly. Then I proceeded to removing the elastic band that was sewn into the wig. One of the challenges I experienced during this rewigging process was loosening this wig because it was sewn very tightly. There's no way this wig would have loosened up on its own in like 5-10 years. No, the person who sewed this wig had, I would say, an iron hand, because softies or soft hands can't sew wigs this strong. It was tightly sewn, very very tightly sewn, almost like a machine sewn wig. Not like machine, because machine does a better, cleaner job and more easy to lose. So I would say maybe worse than a machine sewn wig. After taking out the elastic band, I flipped the wig over to remove the tracks, the bundle. So another thing I noticed was that at no point did they did they cut the bundles. Although it doesn't look like it was the 200 grand I was given that was sewn. It looked like one of the grand was reduced for some reasons, I don't know, but 1 grand was actually 100 and the other one was around a 75 or 80 grand. So 75 or 80 gram, sorry. So yeah, that was one of the things I noticed. So I went into loosening this hair, and you definitely see the challenges I faced, and also see the lapses on this wig, because that is what we're here to show. I'm not here to show how to rewig because I already did like a wigging video, frontal wigging video, closure, 5x5. I have all that in my channel, and I'm also going to tag one of those videos under this post so you can go to it after watching this one. But this is just to show you how the errors that were in this wig initially before I corrected them, just so you don't make those mistakes in your wigging processes. I had to use a scissors to loosen this wig because I already had the feel that it was tightly sewn, so I didn't want to use a razor because razors are quite sharp and would I would cut the wig track or the bundle if any mistake happens. So, and also the bundles are sewn, so there's a tendency of trying to loosen the bundle from the wig cap and then you come to lose the bundle itself. I don't know if you've experienced that before, but I have, because razors are quite sharp. So I'm using the scissors and I'm being very careful. Trust me, loosening this wig took me a whole day. It took me a whole day just to loosen this wig because I had to be extra careful not to cut the bundle or to bruise the hair bundle or the hair tracks. So at this point, I'm going to show you another mistake done by the wigger of this wig. So while sewing the wig, the person who wigged it was sewing the hair together with the tracks. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit so you see clearly. So they were sewing the tracks, and also how the wig was sewn, they were basically sewing from under. So that's how something like this was possible. That's why they were able to make this mistake, because sewing a wig, you need to sew on the tracks, not under the track. So you know the track line where they sew the hairs together and then it forms the bundle or the extension. That's where you sew it with the thread, not underneath, because when you sew underneath, there are tendencies of sewing in the hair, just like you just saw a few seconds ago. Yeah, so at this point I have removed both bundles and I'm weighing them with my hands. So you can clearly see that one of them is fuller than the other. So one is complete, is like 100 grand, and the other isn't 100 grand. But yeah, I was trying to be sure before I went ahead to do the measurements, and then I discovered it wasn't. And then loosening the closure was quite easy. So at this point, I finished up with loosening the closure, although it was also kind of challenging, but I had to do it carefully so I don't bruise the lace. And tell me who uses a black lace to ventilate a closure. It was kind of absurd for me because I'm like, black? And my client is actually light skinned, so I was trying to figure out how it will look on her head. So it's not giving the it will not give the natural kind of lace melting and all. It will give artificial because it's black on a light skinned person. But anyways, we move. So I fit the new wig cap on my canvas head, ensuring I get the measurement correctly because this canvas head is measured 23. I had to make sure all sides of the cap are fitted properly to avoid sewing it in the wrong way. So this is what it came out in the end. I'm also going to show you like a 360 view again so you see it before I proceed with sewing. So at this point, I began to measure the spaces of the sewing tracks. So originally you're supposed to measure these spaces after you have sewn in your closure or your frontal lace so that it gives you the actual space that is needed. But I just imagined the space in my head. But anyways, after sewing the first bundle in, I've sewed in the closure first before I proceeded to sewing in the last bundle. But if you don't sew in your closure first, you kind of miscalculate and then everything will basically go wrong. But because I am already used to this thing, I do it like every other day, it was easy for me to picture the space in my head. And also, like I said, I still fixed in the closure before I fixed in the last bundle. So take note, you are supposed to first sew in your closure, whether it's a 2x6 or 6x6 or 5x6 or 5x5 or a full frontal lace. You're supposed to sew it in before measuring the other space because that gives you the exact amount that you're supposed to fill in. Still gathering up money to actually buy an actual tracing pen, but for now I'm using chalk because this one is very available everywhere. So I'm using chalk to do the tracing. So if you have a tracing pen, of course, or if you have a, what do you call that pen? I'm going to get the name and maybe add it to the caption. But if you have that pen, it's better than using chalk because chalk leaves a trace, particle traces. So at the end of the day, you have to now clean. You have to now clean, but the pen actually does a neater job. But notwithstanding, it's actually good to, will I say, measure and draw the tracks because it guides you on how to go with the weekend. So this is me showing you the tracks to show you that it is untouched and neatly loosened, showing you both sides to see, because razor loosening, if one is not careful, can actually tamper with the tracks. So I measured the bundles, because the ones that are at the beginning of the head of the wig, right? Is it at the beginning or at the end? The ones that at the end of the wig, like the back of your head, will be shorter than the one that are close, that is close to the, that is fixed close to the closure. So, and I also noticed that some error on my track drawing. So, and I corrected that. So I had to measure the bundle so that I don't put the long one underneath and the short one on the top. So I had to measure it well so that maybe the adjustment I'll be doing at the end will not be so much. On my previous videos, I also showed how I begin my wig sewing and how I lock in the knots with the wig tracks. So, like I said earlier, I'm going to tag that video to this, or put the link in the description so that you can easily access it. This is giving you an up close view of how a knot should be sewn. Hold on a minute when I turn it, so you see, as I said, a knot, how a wig track should be sewn. So you see it's not sewn underneath. So this was what I was trying to explain, that the initial sewing was done underneath, causing all the hitches and error, causing the hair to sew with the tracks and the rest of it. But now you can barely see it. You can see thread, but you can barely see the sewing tracks, which is what we intended to achieve, and we also achieved. We had a little trimming to do underneath, which I used my scissors to trim. I wasn't really, well, I say, serious with the trimming, because I didn't want to use my clipper and then cut it so short, because this hair is supposed to be a 16 inches. So I just used my scissors to cut out the excesses at the bottom, cut it out very well, and then yeah, we moved from it. After trimming, it was time to style, and I'm styling with the hair wax. I had my tint lace tint spray, heat protectants by Fantasia, and Tresemme keratin smooth. I also want to try out other products, so I'll appreciate your recommendation on serums to try out, and maybe another heat protectant to try out, maybe an unknown brand, I would think. So I had to use the lace tint to spray to change the color of the lace from black to like a brown, which was kind of difficult, but I had to spray multiple times and dry so that we get the results, because it was really dark. And then I sprayed the lace tint in the front of the hair and also on the center part. So what I'm going to advise my clients is to use what I'm going to advise her is that for any styling she's trying to do, she has to use like foundation and compressed powder to highlight the parting area so that it doesn't really show dark, and also it's bright enough and beautiful. So after doing that and letting that dry, I proceeded to straightening the hair. So for every tract, I used my hot comb to flatten out the tract surface, because it has actually under, how will I even put it, it has experienced tension from the initial wigging that was done. So there were some very funny lines and shapes of the wig, especially on the wig tract, because it was sewn wrongly initially. So now that we're correcting it, I have to use the hot comb to straighten that top before I use my straightener to straighten it up. So yeah. And this is just showing you the difference between the straightened part and the part that is not straightened. So you see that this other one, from the top to the bottom, the strands came down, while this one, at some points the strands were kind of separated. You can actually go back to see it clearly for yourselves. So at this point I straightened I would say 90% of the hair, and I was left with just 10%. So this is the last part I straightened, and then I proceeded to straighten the closure and also flatten it with the the wax stick and my hot comb. And then I also set that with my shadow holding spray, so that it doesn't fly out or scatter. But shadow is not as strong as Tresemme holding adhesive, so I just used the shadow spray. And yeah, it was quite good. It came out really well. For sake of time, I couldn't video or I couldn't vlog the part where I flattened the closure, but this is the closure after flattening with the head wax and also using shadow to hold it. And then I attached this adjustable band on the wig, and that's it. Thanks for watching, guys.